Comment, like, subscribe. The bell keeps you notified. It helps the show thrive. There are various holidays that can be found celebrated all across the globe. Things such as New Year's, Halloween, Christmas, Diwali, Eid, Passover, Valentine's Day, and St. Patrick's Day has weirdly taken off all across the globe too, despite being an Irish holiday. Though, despite these big international celebrations, there are still holidays that are more celebrated by just one country or a single group of people. This could be because that celebration relates directly to events or people in that country and nowhere else. And there is no better example of this holiday, the one that, at the time of recording, has just passed in the United States of America, that being Juneteenth. This is a federal holiday in the United States that celebrates the emancipation of black slaves, allowing them their freedom. It is held every year on the 19th of June. Well, June 19th I ought to say, as that's how dates work in the USA. However, the date being said in that way is pivotal to the origin of this name, as the name Juneteenth is a simple combination of the words June and 19th. I imagine the date being read as month then day allowed the words of June and 19th to be compounded more easily. If Americans refer to this date as the 19th of June, who knows if the name Juneteenth will gain momentum or not. While Juneteenth is the most popular name for this holiday, it is also sometimes referred to as Freedom Day, Black Independence Day, and the Second Independence Day. Though the alternative name for this holiday I found most interesting is Jubilee Day. I found this interesting as Jubilee is a word associated with a completely different kind of event here in the UK. Jubilee simply does mean the anniversary of any special event, hence why it can relate to different things. The word itself is of Hebrew origins and means something along the lines of trumpet/ram's horn. This is because in Jewish culture, the Jubilee was an event celebrated every 50 years and marked with the blowing of a ram's horn. Interestingly enough, one of the things that happened during these Jewish Jubilees was the release of slaves, regardless of how long they had served. So while it might sound odd at first for Brits like myself to hear Jubilee being used as a name for Juneteenth, it actually makes a ton of sense. This word had deep links with the freeing of slaves before it became a catch-all term for an anniversary or a celebration. Based on the initial meaning of this word, it is far more fitting to refer to Juneteenth as a jubilee than the anniversary of the British monarch's time on the throne, especially considering the deep links the British royal family have with the slave trade, such as the then Duke of York, who would go on to become James II, in 1660 establishing the Royal African Company, which is believed to have transported well over 180,000 slaves from Africa to English colonies in the New World, with profits from this trade going into the UK's treasury. When you know about the royal family's ties to the slave trade and the initial meaning of this word Jubilee, it feels a little off for them to be using it to mark their time on the throne, though maybe that's just me. Anyway, this video is about Juneteenth, not the British King or Queen's Jubilee. And as mentioned, this day is celebrated on the 19th of June. The reason it is celebrated on the 19th of June because it was on this day in 1865 in which freedom finally came for many African American slaves. Now, the history buffs in the room might be noting something a little bit off with this date, that being the fact that emancipation didn't happen in 1965, but rather 2 years earlier in 1863. While it was in fact in 1863 that Abraham Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation came into effect, the Civil War in the USA was far from over. The proclamation declared that slaves in the Confederacy would be freed, only on the condition that the Union actually won the war. This turned the Civil War into a fight for freedom, with many black soldiers joining the fight. In the years that followed the Emancipation Proclamation, states that were part of the Confederacy surrendered with their slaves becoming freed people. One of the last strongholds of the Confederacy, however, was the state of Texas, which by 1865 was still fighting in the war. Texas is very much seen as the state in which the Civil War ended, with the Battle of Palmetto Ranch, what is seen as the final battle of the war, happening within this state. This battle took place after much of the Confederacy had already surrendered too, which shows us just how much Texas were holding out. This meant that many of the slaves in Texas Texas didn't even know about the Emancipation Proclamation. Well, that was until the 19th of June, 1865, of course. It was on this day in Galveston, Texas, that Union General Gordon Granger announced to the slaves of Texas that their president had issued the Emancipation Proclamation, which finally freed the 250,000 or so slaves in the state of Texas. This is why it is June 19th, which is the day that celebrates the freeing of slaves, as opposed to, say, the 1st of January, which is the day the Emancipation Proclamation came into effect in 1863, because it was truly on June 19th that the majority of African Americans were actually freed, and it was from this point in time that the US Civil War ended, and the next period in US history, the Reconstruction, could really begin. It's easy for Texas to get a bad rap in all this, as they were the last state to allow emancipation. However, it was in this state where Juneteenth really started to become celebrated. The first Juneteenth celebration kicked off right away the following year on the 19th of June, 1866. The first Juneteenth included prayers, singing, and the wearing of brand new clothes, which marked freedom for so many slaves who had worn rags and old clothes all their lives. It does not seem like they're calling this celebration Juneteenth from the very beginning, however. The first name this celebration had was in fact Jubilee Day, which once again highlights to us how this word of Jubilee is a perfect fit for Juneteenth and should be used more often. So where did Juneteenth actually come from, and when did it usurp Jubilee as the popular name for this celebration? Well, we don't know exactly, but the oldest written reference we have to the name Juneteenth, according to the Oxford English Dictionary, is from 1810. 25 years after the first Juneteenth. So at some point by 1890, this name for the event had been coined and was in popular enough usage for it to be written down. While Juneteenth started to be celebrated straight away after the matter, resistance to the celebration by others in the USA also came about immediately. While African Americans had been freed, in reality they still faced a huge amount of challenges in day-to-day life. This became even more apparent with the introduction of Jim Crow laws. These laws are named after a character from black minstrel shows, and are a collection of laws and regulations that allow black people in the USA to be segregated in a variety of ways. These kinds of laws came into effect pretty much immediately after 1865, with laws like the Black Codes, which detailed the ways in which black people were allowed to be a part of society. From here it led to even more segregation, including rules for where black people weren't allowed to go, to jobs they were not allowed to have. On top of this, black people faced many other challenges too, such as Confederate soldiers in the aftermath of the Civil War going into work such as the police force or politics. In these roles, they could carry on punishing black people. Jim Crow laws lasted way into the 1960s. It's from this period we start seeing images like segregated water fountains and segregated buses. Suffice to say, celebrating Juneteenth during this time period was not the easiest of things. Black people weren't allowed to celebrate their history and culture so publicly. This led to a decline in celebration of the holiday. Some groups of African Americans, however, got more creative and figured out ways to celebrate the holiday. In 1872, for example, black community members in Houston, Texas saved $1,000 collectively to purchase a plot of land, with the sole intention being that it would be a place where black people could freely celebrate Juneteenth. This land became Emancipation Park, which not only still exists in Houston, but many other parks around the USA bear this name now too. By the late 1960s, many of these Jim Crow laws were finally abolished, though of course black people after this point and to this day can still face discrimination in the USA. But this meant that Juneteenth could finally be celebrated more publicly once again. It would take some more time, however, before Juneteenth became more recognized. The first state to make Juneteenth an official holiday was none other than Texas. It seems like Texas has really been the pioneer of Juneteenth. They recognized it in just 1979, but from there, more and more states have started to recognize it. And finally, in 2021, Juneteenth was established as a national holiday across the entire USA, with Juneteenth celebrations now happening all across the nation, it seems. And as a holiday, it seems to be picking up more and more momentum, with celebrations becoming larger. It seems that this year, New York City alone held concerts and parades for the event. It's great seeing how far this holiday has come, especially as someone who knew very little about it before writing this video. So happy Juneteenth to all. Blame my schedule for this video coming out a couple days later after the actual holiday. And I hope everyone got to enjoy this very special Jubilee. This video topic was suggested by Nancy Moon Smith over on my Patreon. Every Wednesday, I put up a video request post over on my Patreon for my awesome patrons to leave video ideas on. I then pick one of these ideas to be turned into a video the following Wednesday. So if you have a great idea for a name explain video and wish to enjoy name explain videos ad-free as well as get exclusive content, then why not support the channel on Patreon? It takes just $1 a month to help the channel in a huge way and gets you all of these amazing benefits. Visit patreon.com/nameexplain or click the link down below. Name Explain depends on viewers like yourself supporting the channel financially on Patreon, so a huge thank you to everyone who does. Donating just $1 a month helps the channel amazingly and gets you bonuses including ad-free videos, exclusive content, and the power to request ideas to be made into actual Name Explain videos. $2 a month gets you all that, plus your name here with all these awesome people. Visit patreon.com/nameexplain or click the link down below to find out how you too can support the channel. Thank you. Thanks for reaching the end of the video. Why not watch another and subscribe to keep up to date on all things Name Explain. You can find myself on Instagram where I'm NameExplainYT and join the Facebook group Friends of Name Explain to talk with myself and other name nerds. All that will be linked down below. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video and once again, thank you all so much.